Well, the year is coming down to a close, and it's still technically 2023 around this video. So I figured it would be good enough of an idea to do what I thought were my favorite movies of the year. There will be a separate video that will talk about least favorites, and boy do I want to get into those. But I want to talk about the good, because this year was crammed with so many good movies this year. I am shocked how many that came out that I wanted to see more than once, and you're going to see in this list my 10 favorite films of 2023. Number 10, the Super Mario Brothers movie. You can kind of tell I have a lot of Mario memorabilia around my house. When there comes to a film that is done so good, and I go back to watch it at least 3 separate times to see like some of the references and other things from Nintendo video games, because there's always something you miss. You could take Chris Pratt's performance as Mario is for what it is, but everybody else did a phenomenal job in their parts. This is a film that I think is good for both adults and for kids. Not a single moment in the film that made me really hate it at all. And as far as a video game movie, it basically kicked it off for the year of good adaptations based on video game properties. And I would have had Five Nights at Freddy's on the list, but it didn't have that same little like hit right there like the Mario Brothers movie did. So I cannot wait for the Zelda one. I hope that it's just as good, if not better, but it is definitely one that I will be going back to watching over and over again. Number 9, Iron Claw. As far as movies throughout the year I was waiting to see the most, Iron Claw was on that list. It tells of the Von Erichs and how depressing and very harsh that it is that that family had to go through. And you really see why the whole family felt like it was cursed, that there were deaths, there were bike accidents, and there were just so many things that they could have filled in for time, but there was no way that they would be able to make that unless they would stretch it out to a 3-hour film. So I do get why that they got rid of the MJF cameo bits because he was supposed to play Lance Von Erich. But overall, it was a good documentary-style film. But overall, this was a phenomenal film. One of the best wrestling films that you could watch. Is it better than The Wrestler? That's up for debate, but I absolutely loved Iron Claw. Number 8, Air. The story of Michael Jordan basically being the centerpiece for an entire shoe company was done very well. I was kind of shocked how good this movie came out because I thought it was going to be a lot of cringe. There may have been a few parts that were, but the story that told where it was going up against a bunch of shoe company giants. And it was kind of surprising because I didn't know how big Converse was back in the day, but looking at it now, I see why exactly. And it was impressive to see just how far that every company wanted to go through to be able to get Michael Jordan to be their guy to represent their shoe. And it was definitely well edited too, especially at the very end when they do that final speech for the film, and it definitely works very well. I think for a documentary movie about a shoe, even though you don't get to see the actor who plays Michael Jordan, it does technically sound like him or close enough to it. This was a really good movie, and it's one of my top 10 of the year. Number 7, Oppenheimer. It can be debated which one you prefer more, Darren Barbenheimer, but Oppenheimer for me personally was the better film of the two. But in all seriousness, as a documentary film, this is one of the best ones that are out there. Christopher Nolan knocked it out of the park once again and has basically been one of my favorite directors. His Batman trilogy, Inception, didn't see the other one that he made, but then there was Oppenheimer. I'm surprised that I didn't get to see this when it was out in IMAX, but we did get to do a second re-release of it over during the holiday season, and it was still just as popular as it was during the summer. The only thing that I wish they would have took out was the sex scene part during the interview bits, at the close end of the film. If they would have took that out, it would have been up higher on the list, but overall, it was a damn good movie. Number 6, John Wick 4. As far as action flicks, it is still one of the best of the year, and there's one other franchise that it had an ending, but you'll see in a bit. But I think this was a perfect finale for the series until they do decide to do more stuff, which there was a show that came out this past year. But this is one that I really hope they do not reboot or do a remake of, because it's perfect the way it is. And unfortunately, I think they will go into that at a later date, but honestly, just watch all of them from top to bottom. Second could be debated as the worst of the series, but that's like very low praise. But I think as far as one of the best trilogies or quadrilogies of action flicks, it is one that is recommended by many, and for good reason. If there's one series that I would go back to rewatching over again from top to bottom, John Wick would definitely be that. Number 5, The Holdovers. When I say holiday classic, I mean holiday classic. This is one that is definitely very wholesome in certain ways that you could say. But I think the thing that really stands out about The Holdovers that to me personally made it a favorite for the whole year was the dynamic between the three. And you get to feel bad for all three of them because they're all three dealing with things that you see them experiencing throughout the film. One dealing with not being able to visit their family. One dealing with a son that had basically died. And third, well, I'll leave that alone until you watch the film. But it does develop a relationship between the three throughout the whole entire film, and it's all Christmas related. So that is one of the reasons why I said in my 30-second review why it is one of the best films of the year, and why it was my top 5, or in top 5, I should say. But this is one that I recommend anybody to watch, even if it's not around Christmas time, but it is one that I wish got more recognition because it is a damn good film. Go watch it. Number 4, Talk to Me. When I said it has atmosphere, I really meant it. In my 30-second little review of the film, I didn't get into everything that was in that film, but I tried the best I could. There are very few horror films that I've watched that I would basically argue as being one of my favorite movies of all time. This one goes above and beyond to really creep you out inside. And it's one that I would probably argue saying that, yeah, this is one that you shouldn't watch by yourself. It's better to have other people with you because you could see some of them getting creeped out in bits. But it tells a good story, and the finale is one that you could kind of expect if you know where it's heading. But overall, it's a really good horror film for any horror fan fanatic. But honestly, it's still one that I still say is one of the best films of the year. Number 3. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's a pun because it's number 3. Never mind about that. But in all fairness, this is still one of the best movies of the year. And I think James Gunn did it on a phenomenal end to one of the best Marvel franchises that have ever been put out. And the thing is, it was a series that hardly anybody knew about unless you were a fan of the comics. And while there were things from the original Marvel characters that were changed around a bit, they still told a very well-made series. And I thought the dynamic where it was Rocket Raccoon who was the main focus of it was different, but it felt refreshing and one that I basically went to see more than once, and you'll see that for the rest of the whole countdown. I am very happy with the finale. It doesn't need any more, but overall, it was in good hands. I'm glad James Gunn did it. Best trilogy of Marvel films, aside from the 2 last, Endgame Marvel Thanos movies. Number 2, Godzilla -1. Shin Godzilla was one of my favorite Godzilla films of all time, but Godzilla -1 takes the cake now. I have never seen a Godzilla movie before where I felt actual real emotion aside from Shin Godzilla. But I think that there was a lot of things that they did where it felt like you were really cheering for the humans. And there is Godzilla, but the main focus is only on a certain amount of characters. Especially the first time you get to see his atomic breath launch through the film, and the Ginza scene is very satisfying when you see how much destruction that one blast did for the whole city. And the way that they take down Godzilla for the first time is very interesting how they put it together, and it's one that I've never seen done in a Godzilla film before. But it is mostly a character drama flick, and one that does have action bits, but it's one that I think I would consider to be my all-time favorite Godzilla film. If you have never seen Godzilla Minus One yet, in my review I said you are doing a disservice if you're not going to see it. But it's still in theaters right now. Go watch it. It's worth the watch if you can handle subtitles, but it's one of the best films of the year, except number 1, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Because this one goes to Spider-Man, unfortunately. But in a good way. Excuse that bit, but overall, what else is there to say? I have gone to tandem about this being my favorite movie of the year for good reason. It lived up to the hype. It was better than the first one. The story was better than the first one. Heck, the action was better than the first one. I don't think Beyond the Spider-Verse is gonna get any better than this, but if it's like a smidget close to Across the Spider-Verse, then I think it's gonna be in good hands. And I know that the movie is going to be delayed because of some people saying that it's not going to be close to done for next year. I can wait. I think that the dynamic between Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, and of course Miguel and everybody else. But I think that it's just, there's so many references, kind of like how it is with the Mario Brothers movie. But this one doesn't get it like shoving in your face as much, aside from when they get to the Spider-Verse portion of it. But you basically get to see that Miles is still fighting to find his own person, and also to battle, not only just to battle Miguel and the rest of the Spider People, but also his family. But of course, the ending, I won't spoil it because you have to watch it. Get the 4K Blu-ray or whatever you have at your house. It's one of the best films of the year, but it's one of the best Marvel superhero films of all time. And it is one that I still say, for the end of this year, as my favorite film of 2023. But of course, that is the video. I want to know what you thought was your favorite film for this year. If your favorite film was not on this list, post down below. I want to see what you have to say. But love you all very, very much. I'm excited for next year. And I still have to do the worst films of the year list, but I still am working on that one. But thank you for watching. Love ya. Have a great evening, and I will see you back at the movies.